Hello and welcome all. We are here to see the 5th day of EU Contenders trials. We've had a whole week worth of action and now we conclude it with today. We have both A and B coming at you for groups, both broadcasts, but we're going to be bringing you some interesting matches today. We do have it's going to be 2 matches total, and we've got our 4 teams as we said. I am Rich Rad here with the amazing Dryad. Dryad, how you doing today? We're looking forward to these matches.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here. The matches, like you said, are very, very interesting. We're going to be started with EMEA Alliance against Astra Aspera. So teams that have been doing pretty good recently. Some of them have struggled at some points, but in general, they had an amazing performance. I do want to talk about at Astra. But no one really was expecting them to do so good recently and in trials, but they've surprised us over and over again. I remember about a few days ago, I saw them forcing dive in most of the maps and making it work against compositions that that shouldn't have happened, but they were ready and they were prepared. So I'm excited to see if we can see this from them again.
Well, and to build on that even further, one of the teams of amongst these two is looking at Obey Alliances because they were the ones that brought Young and Beautiful, which we're going to see later today against CBA. So there's some great elevated gameplay coming out here with Ad Astra yesterday playing. We did see a lot of that dive center type of composition, but we also saw some Winston Zarya, which has been very relevant as we go into this. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to be playing against a team like Obey Alliance, who has been still repeatedly finding themselves in that contender spot, and how well they're going to fend off against a team like Obey.
Yeah, and the thing about Obey Alliance is that we've seen them sometimes looking really, really strong and sometimes struggling a little bit more. So I think what we need to find is just that consistency of them. And right now, realistically, it's really hard for teams to figure that out because there are so many compositions that teams want to run. We've seen dive with the Winston Diva. We've also seen dive with the double bubble composition. We've seen Roadhog play it a lot. We've even seen double shield still, which is kind of surprising, but teams are making these compositions work. So until we have kind of a meta that the teams want to run more often, it's going to be very risky for any team to run a composition that they're not sure about.
And that's the exciting part of this, because as we had the recent patch come through with all of the nerfs and buffs to a number of different characters, it's how these teams are going to start finding their comfort levels and where they're going to see the most resolve to their efforts in this type of composition. And you mentioned it too with the Hog really starting to demonstrate itself in these compositions and how it's going to work out as a whole. But I feel that there's still a lot lending to that Winston Zarya type composition. You've got the Winston that looks to engage, have a lot of presence in the back line, the coverage by the Zarya shield, which has been very, very helpful. And it's really started to give a lot of, difficulty for that back line to survive through that type of early aggression.
Yeah, that's right. And also, looking at the maps, we are going to be starting with Busan. So, EMEA really interesting where we can, like we were talking about, see a lot of these compositions and what teams feel comfortable with. I feel like another thing that we have to mention is that there have been so many critics about teams playing Roadhog because there are so many ways to counter this character. So, even though this is a thing, teams still try to run him because they know he's so strong right now they just can't ignore it. But we've also seen teams, force a double bubble composition with Zarya and Winston and have also worked pretty well. So it really is a matter of what teams really feel more comfortable with and how they think they can counter the other team.
And also the synergy utilizing a Sombra and a Tracer dynamic as well. There is just so much harass for the backline. You really have to commit a lot of resources to keep that support line alive when you've got a composition that can just be so dynamic and oppressive to allowing your team to really get any sort of stability to try and compete against it.
Yeah, and you just really need to watch out for that. Not only for the character that's going to be in the back, but also very important, the Sombra. We've seen, I think, Sombra being one of the most consistent heroes in the meta, even though we've seen tanks change a little bit, we've also seen supports change a little bit, but one of the most consistent heroes has been Sombra because it's so strong. If you can get that EMP really fast, you can get the hack onto most of the enemy team, you're going to have a great advantage. So it's really also really important to mention the importance that it is for any team to have a really good Sombra player that can get those hacks and that EMP really fast.
And now as we are entering onto this, we do have our control map. So it looks like we're still kind of getting a little bit of a confirmation. I think there's some internet connection here just to clarify, but we are going into the map of Busan. So we're starting out, this is a very versatile map. There's a lot of different dynamics to each one of the maps, whether it's mecha base, which has, you know, a lower like ceiling to work with architecturally. You also have, you know, downtown where there is such a vast opening to play a lot of the high ground just in case. Sometimes we see a little bit of that Ash play, even with a Widowmaker as well, that's kind of sprinkled its way in to find some value. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to start off, and I believe we are going into mecha base first here if this connection does go through here for the teams. And again, so it has that low ceiling skybox and that catwalk that can be really vital to having that long range hit scan if Ash looks to present itself here.
Yeah, I think seeing Ash on this meta makes it really, really interesting. You also been seeing a lot of the Mercy Ash play and kind of how that duo works. I think it's really fun to watch, and you know, all the damage that comes through, not only with the dynamite, but also just making sure that you're shooting heads and getting those really, really fast. So it's super interesting to see. I would definitely like to see it here in Busan and also in other maps that we're going to see throughout the match. But in general, I've seen definitely the Tracer more, which also I think is really important, be able to flank, getting those kills when no one else is looking. And it recently it's been a little bit harder to counter Tracer if not really careful. So it really just up to the teams of what they want to run.
And as we see both convening towards that central control, we have the compositions come out here with a Reinhardt and a D.Va, surprisingly, coming out from Obey Alliance. On this initial point on the high ground, though, you're going to see a early takedown. Beautiful job by Astra getting that pick onto the Sombra play, who looked for an early advantage with that hack on the back line, but couldn't gain much value. And Astra right now is really cleaning up on this high ground, and they'll be in a great position to transition to this point and start gaining some percentage.
And that's exactly what I was talking about with Astra. They are forcing dive into most of the maps like we saw them, and it's working really well for them. They're able to get those early picks like we see right now, and they're going to be forcing Obey to regroup, to come again, and to just try to either change the composition or try to be a little bit more aggressive at the beginning. If not, they're going to be in a disadvantage throughout the match.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised right now at how well Obey has still been able to compete on this. Even though there's some early percentage, Obey has not really forced a retreat here to rubber band back into this fight with a full 6. They've had a little bit of extensive usage of the ultimate too. You had that Earth Shatter come out with not a full 6. You've got this backline presence from the Tracer, has the pulse bomb ready to get a nice pick here, but still peppering in a ton of damage now out of the mech. Doesn't actually get Baby D.Va, a second too soon to launch that, and there is just now a final regroup from Obey to come through for another 6 engagement, but they're actually just going to drop down and go in with the CMP.
Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting. It seems like they are going to be able to take the point, but you know, it's a really late EMP. I really didn't expect it, but the next advantage should be going. Once again, for Astra, they have so many ults coming for them that Primary Rage could initiate everything, as well as a sound barrier that has been working pretty well for them.
And we're going to have a pause in the meantime. Wow, while we've got that pause, we can talk a little bit about that last fight. I mean, honestly, that was so surprising by Obey, even though there was a lot of backline harassment with that Tracer play. We saw the Pulse Bomb come out to try and get Baby D.Va out of that mech and to follow up to really crush Obey with that tank line gone. But the fact that there was still enough resolve by Helv on the front line with the Reinhardt, the healers, both from Admiral and from Khan, were stellar in that to keep the team alive, to transition down to the point and actually take it back.
Yeah, and that really early coalition that we saw from May, allowing to keep this team alive for a little bit longer, and it worked. They were able to get 58% of the points, so you know, they were looking pretty good. But that EMP definitely changed the fight, and it made it for Obey Alliance to take it back. So really, really interesting. Now we're going to be able to keep the match going. Seems like the issues were solved, but yeah, a great advantage that Obey Alliance was having just by using that EMP.
With Obey Alliance continuing to maintain, looking to see where Astra is going to move in, looking towards that far outside position where the catwalk is. A lot of damage going to be forced through with the Coalescence to try and press in, then the aggression comes out. The Death Blossom is there with the assistance from the Coalescence, still persevering through the incoming damage, and a self-destruct even committed to get the numbers advantage finally in favor of Obey. even Admiral has to force out the sound barrier to try and persevere through the damage that Astra is able to put on the front line. But oh, Teemo and Hazox getting hacked on the front, and the takedown onto Teemo is far too much to handle. You had to force out the Coalescence from the Moira by Astral to even compete on this point, but it's really not going to help out because at this point you've got Obey still holding ground so strategically here, and Lethal coming in big with a double at the end. Triple to stand.
Yeah, seeing the Reaper here definitely really interesting. Also, the Coalescence didn't work really well for Astra like they were expecting to. Unfortunately, it was way too late for them. And once again, Chao is going to have that EMP to initiate the fight. That's going to be really important and something that they have to be on the lookout for. They don't want to get hacked all at once, or once again, they're going to be in a disadvantage, and this could be one last fight for them.
And with now Astra pressing forward, attempting to compete. There is an Earthshatter EMP. The EMP lands onto 3 with a stun making it 4. And that is a cleanup for Obey. Patiently waiting and funneling everything down that choke point. Lethal takes the flank and will be able to get that extra assistance by the Diva play to bring down Moira. And this is going to be a tall order to even get back to touch the point. And at this point, it's really going to only be Eli to stick there to keep it into the overtime.
And is it going to be enough? They do have the EMP as well coming up for them, as well as that self-destruct, but I really don't think it's going to be enough. The kills coming for OB Alliance, and this is going to be the end of the point, what it seems like.
Yeah, there is far too much damage. The EMP comes out as Teemo transitions down to the point with the Reinhardt. There is far too much coordination and focus fire from Obey for anyone to really touch that point consecutively, and that's going to be first round going to Obey Alliance.
I really think that was a really interesting point to see. At the beginning, it seemed like Obey was a little bit sloppy on the plays that they were making and the ults that they were using, but once they got the point, they didn't let it go throughout the end. So they were doing a really good job on that ult economy. They knew exactly what to use, and a huge congratulations for Chao for getting those EMPs over and over again, also helping the team as well. That was really good, and it really turned the fight around exactly what they wanted to do. Now, coming into this next map, we do see a lot of changes. Both for Bay Alliance are going to be on a dive, while at Astra is going to be playing that Roadhog, and Wrecking Ball also really interesting. I remember last time I saw them play, it didn't really work out for them, but this could be an exception. It could definitely make it work, as well as that Widowmaker trying to get those picks early.
Yeah, the Widowmaker is going to have to play a very pivotal role here in finding value. Again, you're not going into like a completely heavy double shield composition, but when you find yourself getting surrounded by a Reaper in the back with Helve giving some Tesla cannon damage assistance, there is no way that Spider's sticking around. And that is a quick numbers advantage here for Alliance. And Ad Astra really misplaying that positionally and not seeing exactly where Obey was moving to.
Yeah, Lethal getting those kills at the beginning, it just made it impossible for Astra to really know what to do. They're going to be going back to the drawing board, making some changes, what it seems like, and making it work. They are changing the composition. They're going to be running that double bubble. It seems like it's going to work out a little bit better for them, but obviously they're going to be at a disadvantage coming into the next fight. Once again, Chao doing a really good job of getting those hacks early and making it impossible. We see in the flank trying to also get some picks as well.
With that damage now going to come through on the front side. You've got that already evasion from the Tesla cannon damage by Teemo, using the jump defensively to get out of the line of sight. And with this regroup now from Obey, rotating and maintaining this drum position, you have this EMP looking for a chance to use it. Nobody going to be in sight lines though, or range, but Lethal still finds another. This Reaper needs to be stopped. You have that McCree for the flashbang, but it's already been eliminated in the fight. There's nothing to stop this damage. It will at least be Levitate getting the kill, but there is far too much done, and Obey is going to be forcing back Ad Astra once again.
And we're really at a point where I don't want to see that McCree being played anymore. It's not really working, and we do see that Primal Rage going directly into spawn, getting those kills at the end, making it really hard for Ad Astra to recontest. They are once again going to be playing the dive, but 77% that we see on the 10 bank right now. So like a great disadvantage for them right now. They are going to make some changes, and they need to make them now.
Yeah, I mean, these changes with this 10 seconds just more to last. You at least get the D-Mech here, and you've got Skyle getting a pick onto Admiral, which is huge to get rid of that support line and make sure that you can start getting some percentage here. But again, look at these ultimate economies. Obey is in a beautiful and prime spot to compete against Ad.
Yeah, that's right. They should be able to recontest, and they're in a really good position to do so. So once again, coming with the advantage, that would be the last fight that the team would need to take the point and to take the map as well. But it's still possible getting those early picks for at Astra could be their only opportunity to have a chance against Obey Alliance. So it is possible, maybe with that pulse bomb coming through, getting one of the supports.
And we're actually going to see the lead for... Oh, no! The sound barrier isn't going to come out fast enough. Lethal gets the pick before it lands. That is a huge early advantage for Obey to now take this point away. The self-destruct is not going to be enough in this back line from Astra. You've got everyone scrambling to this point. A return self-destruct from Kenny, and that is now going to be a final few seconds here. Obey Alliance in a dominant fashion going to obtain this point. The Stranglers come through from Ad Astra, but this is just climbing Everest at the moment, and you are struggling to keep coordinated with Teemo coming on this wrecking ball with a prayer.
99%, it seems like this is going to be it. A few starters coming through, but unfortunately that is just going to be too late for at Astra. Obey Alliance is definitely going to be taking this map, and a really good job. I really just enjoy once again seeing that Sombra getting this kill. That's it.
I mean, I gotta give Ad Astra credit though. Even though they had some real difficult times against Obey, there was a lot of opportunity still to try and change the composition, started to refocus on who was really pumping out a lot of the primary damage. They needed to really maintain Lethal, who was doing a dominant job, and then also just finding a lot of picks onto Admiral as well. Just that constant utility that the Lucio brings you with heavy mobility on an already quite mobile composition makes it even more hard to collapse onto anything.
Yeah, that's right, and it just... once again, it did seem like Astra was going to have the advantage, but unfortunately it was just not enough for them. Really excited to see what they're going to bring, but we're going into a really quick pause and we'll be right back.
Everybody, as we are here to continue on, we appreciate your patience for that small technical difficulty. We did have Obey Alliance, though, on this control point of Busan take the map first over at Astra. Again, this is first to 3 in this match today and the one to follow. And now we're going to be entering on to Hollywood. So, Dryad, what do you think we can see from Ad Astra at this point to really kind of refine their composition and get a more advantageous engagement against Obey and really start taking this into their own hands?
Right, so the main thing that I saw about Ad Astra and why they were struggling towards the end was they were playing dive composition against a really good Reaper, right? So it was really risky for them to make this play, and they were getting killed before they even had a chance to get their own picks. So I know Ad Astra feels really comfortable with the dive, and it's worked for them most of the time on other matches that they've had. But right now, we see that OV Alliance was prepared for this match. They are definitely going to be trying to counter the dive from Ad Astra as much can. So I also want to see Ad Astra adapting to this. If they have to play something else, if they want to play a double bubble instead, then that would be the most favorable thing that they could be doing. But the dive composition could also work here. They just really need to know exactly how to play around it and make sure that a Reaper or any DPS from Obey is not getting those early picks, because that's what's affecting them over and over again. Before they're even able to get to point, they're getting killed. So definitely watch out for that, and I know they can make the comeback as long as they adapt to the changes.
And as we take a look at now the composition, we will see if there is some adaptation onto this with Ad Astra on the defensive side first here. And you've got this double bubble, as you said, with a Tracer and an Ashe. And I like the Ashe coming out here because it can just do so much damage in this very narrow corridor and this bottleneck.
Yeah, that's right. Ashe is going to be really interesting. Also having that damage boost from Mercy and playing by Levitate, they're going to be really interesting. They just need to make sure that they can commit, and it seems like they're going to be diving right away.
Yeah, there was a great coordinated play between the two. Lethal comes in as well to get that cleanup, and honestly, you saw that great drawback attention from Ad Astra, but it was just when you're on that balcony and you go to that lower segment where the stairs is, it's so hard to recover once you're completely swarmed into that small room.
Yeah, so playing also the dive composition, they did try that strategy to see if it could work, but played on the defense is definitely going to be a little bit harder, and they got eliminated right away. So they are fortunately going to be able to come back in time and try to hold it for a little bit longer. But once again, looking a little bit like they definitely looking they're struggling. They don't really know how to play against them, even if both teams have that dive for the tanks. We see Obey Alliance still playing the Reaper.
Yeah, they're going to keep the Reaper because it really hasn't had any negative response just yet. It's consistently finding value against Teemo, as you can see. Now going to even shred through that Diva health value, picking off the last one with the assistance of the front tank line. 5 minutes to carry into this Streets phase, and that is a huge bank to work with here for Obey.
Yeah, and you are playing Reaper, and the only changes Reaper versus the Tracer that we're seeing, everything else should be a mirror match. So this is going to be really interesting for them. I believe Reaper has been played also by tier 2 and Drifters before, and it's worked really well for them. So this could be them initiate a new meta where Reaper is very viable for them playing against this dive composition that is just not working well for Ad Astra. They're not able to do as much as they would like to do.
And now you've got Hell forcing out the primal range. Nice hack to try and reach that tail end of the usage, so it's a little bit more vulnerable. But you've got this EMP that lands onto 4 of Ad Astra with Lethal in the bar, making it worthwhile, getting the triple. The self-destruct is there, but has that lovely evasion to survive through it. Gets the quad onto Teemo, and Obey reaching this checkpoint is going to continue fueling their time bank of still over 5 minutes, and Ad Astra has a tall order ahead of them to try and counter this momentum.
And Lethal does it over and over again, able to get those picks at the end. They were struggling for a few seconds, but Lethal comes in check and also helps out his team so much. This is exactly what we want to see from this group, and has been doing an amazing job. They did use a few ults, but it was more than necessary. They have more than 5 minutes to get to this third checkpoint. So looking very comfortable on the meta, looking like they are going to be having the advantage, but they do have a few EMPs as well coming for Astra, that EMP as well, and that coalescence that we see right now.
Yeah, the Coalescence, though, is going to be able to, you know, back out just a little bit. There's not enough applied pressure here to really shut it down. This great sound barrier by Admiral on the back is going to continue to keep this team alive and just buffered for any type of counterattack from Astra. Astra has to bail right now because they cannot stick in this. And Helva on this Roadhog finds a hook, taking down the Tracer. And this is just one piece after another that Obey is just dismantling from the tower that is Astra, and they cannot recover from this.
And it just seemed like a really late engagement for the Sora, but the Reaper once again getting those kills in spawn. They feel so comfortable in this meta. They're ready to win. They don't want to delay it any second more. They go over and over again, getting those picks, and they are able to take those 3 checkpoints in 4 minutes 10 seconds left. Amazing job that we're seeing from Obey.
I mean, you're feeling really confident when you have a higher time bank than what you started. You're adding up, friends. You're not going down. So with that type of time bank, Astra has a tall order ahead of them. I've said it a couple of times already, but let's try and focus on what they can do now. So at this point, we've seen Obey already been able to really play this Reaper who has been a pain in Astral's side. They had a little bit from Astral the idea of bringing out the McCree that has the ground control. There just needs to be some kind of coordinated effort to prevent Lether from getting such a massive, aggressive positioning, especially when you've got a dive line like Obey that's jumping in the back. So I would really like to see some kind of adjustment here, maybe even something to kind of slow down the play a little bit as well.
And they are going to, it seems like, play that Reaper once again. For the tanks, it's going to be changing a little bit, but overall, the Reaper is so strong. So yeah, like you were mentioning, Astra is going to be having to make a few changes. I would like to see Kyle switching from those DPS that are really not working. Honestly, at this point, I would just say go Reaper 2. Just see what you can do with Reaper. If Lethal is just such a like insane Reaper, always getting those picks, then maybe you're able to do the same. But overall, they are definitely struggling. If you are completely roll in Hollywood and there's just absolutely nothing you can do, then you really just need to make a few changes in the composition.
Well, speaking of a few changes in the composition, I'm really interested to see how Eli is going to utilize this Echo play. You don't really have the Mercy, so you find yourself being picked off like that. And when you don't have that type of support, you can't play corners like that so aggressively.
And I'm wondering how long we're going to see Eli keeping that Echo. Also, a little bit of a risky play. There you go. Now they change once again, and they're ready to attack. But they're going to be playing that Reinhardt and a Diva. So they really need to push up as soon as they can. Sort of a rush composition. They're going to be running, but how are they going to try to contest the high ground, which is their main concern right now?
Yeah, and honestly, this high ground is going to be very difficult for Astral to dislodge. There's a chance that you can see them maybe try and get enough defensive presence to strafe to that side position to climb the stairs to even the score. And they're finally going to move, so there is a nice coverage here, allowing Sky to get some heavy damage, but the dive comes through. You've got Admiral on the front with the movement and gets the kill onto the Ana, but Heavy and also Lethal go down. Those are 2 key members to get rid of on this team. But oh, the recovery. This just constant ebb and flow between the 2 teams. You had Astral in an opportunity to start taking advantage, but their health values were so low that Obey instantly knew to follow up onto that and crushed their aggression. But I like this direction that Astral is moving in to try and take this point.
Yeah, huge credits to that. Lucio getting that early pick and then getting another one, exactly what the team needed to hold the defense. Even though they lost a few members, it was just more than enough to keep the defense, exactly like we were talking about. And once again, Astra is struggling a little bit. I don't know if they're running the best composition that they could right now, but they're definitely trying. They are not going to have any ults coming into this next fight. So once again, the defense is going to have a great advantage, and the Nano also coming through.
Yeah, Khan is going to make sure to use that up front. You generate that Earth Shatter, now going to use it immediately after the just dominant force comes out by Obey when you've got that nano boost, and does manage to get the pick in the midst of the safeguard. Minute and 44 seconds to work with, and at Astra, if they can allow themselves to maintain ultimate economy here and not allow Obey to keep this frontline position, they can turn this around.
They definitely can. We're going to see getting those early picks is going to be a key for them coming into this next fight because they don't have much time left.
They don't, especially when you've got a double kill coming out here by Kenny on that D.Va. And, oh, the counter D.Va pick as well. Oh, baby D.Va's just having a fun time. They're just shooting their little pistol guns and just having a good time.
Yeah, they are just doing so good. They are able to even touch spawn a few times. So Obey looking really, really comfortable playing against Ad Astra, which is really amazing. Ad Astra has had an amazing performance in other matches, but right now they just don't know what to do. They're trying to make a few changes. They do have those ults for the supports coming through, but is it going to be enough time? They have about one fight left, and they really need to get those early picks before they're able to do anything.
That's going to be great, though. They need to isolate these picks because you've got Obey so spread out. A nice takedown as well onto the back line. The numbers advantage going in favor of Ad Astra, and the momentum has to come now. 2 down already in this exchange, but there's still a numbers advantage for Astra. Obey will have these few seconds to recover, but this is at least going to be point presence for Astra to try and transition to payload phase.
They should be able to take the point, but we see Obey also coming through. They are ready to try to hold it for as long as they can. A lot of ult as well coming for the Astra, so this could be their opportunity to get at least the first point.
Yep, with that first point nearing, this is going to be the chance now, and Astra has to truly focus fire here. You've got Helv with the Earth Shatter that does knock down the D.Va, but just around the corner. You've got Lethal and Kenny coming around the back with the regroup. That gets the picks. The supports are down. Lethal finds another, one after another, and this is finally going to be Obey Alliance recovering despite the 2 ticks obtained from Astra, and it is not going to be enough. And you will have Obey Alliance taking this second round, now finding themselves on leading into the match point here. And again, Astra worked really, really well at the end. They found those early picks because Obey was so spread out, but just could not hold much longer on that point to reach that checkpoint, complete it, and start transitioning forward with a decent time bank to try and carry it further.
And that's just very unfortunate for Ad Astra because they are finally able to get those picks, but because they got them all so fast and at the same time, we saw that Obey was able to regroup really quick and touch point, and obviously Lethal once again coming on Reaper getting that first pick, and that was just more than enough. They were able to get only 2 ticks, and unfortunately that just wasn't enough for them to win the match. So they are struggling. We are in match point right now, and at this point I just really need to see some changes from Ad Astra. Sometimes they have tried. They went from the dive to a rush composition to see if they could work, but once again, they really need to try to get the Reaper first at least, or one of the supports. That Lucio getting so much value, it's something that they shouldn't be allowing to happen.
Yeah, they really can't. I mean, what the one part of this, I guess, formula, if you want to say, is that Astra, the times that they've been able to succeed is when they're taking advantage of Obey's overzealous play. And Obey right now is feeling very confident. You could see it start to demonstrate a little bit more here in Hollywood. They feel very confident over their opponent, but once they start becoming so scarce, they were, in multiple high grounds, they had their team completely scattered around, looking to really kind of focus more so on the single target play. If you can have Ad Astra coordinate, find these independent picks, just like they did toward the ends of Hollywood, taking down the D.Va, getting another staggered pick on the Sombra, that's going to be really, really critical. Now, as we go into Junkertown being the next map, especially with these long sight lines, I'm really interested to see what Astra's going to do here to try and attempt this potentially grueling reverse sweep.
Right, and actually last time that I was able to see Ad Astra play in Junkertown, they ran a dive composition on defense on the 3rd point, which I thought it was really interesting because you don't see that as often, but somehow they made it work. Now, one thing to take into account is that during that match, the other team was not playing Reaper, which is their main struggle right now. Until they're able to figure out how to take down Reaper and get those early picks like we were talking about, that dive composition is not going to be of any use. They just really need to figure out a composition that's going to be able to, it's going to allow them to get the early picks onto Reaper, onto the supports. Once they do that, they can definitely push and be as aggressive as they want. But definitely some changes that need to be made.
Yeah, the other thing, too, that's been also really interesting on Junkertown is we saw a little sprinkling of Roadhog and Sigma. it's a very interesting dynamic to kind of see that change up. I mean, you have a lot of, great pick potential with the Roadhog, and that could be an answer here to see come out by Astra if they really want to hyper focus onto that Reaper, who does seem to be uncontested in the back line. And even with the Sigma play, which has found itself in relevancy, there could be an opportunity for the stuns. You've got the accretion. You also have the kinetic grass to mitigate that type of damage, forcing that reload on the Reaper. So there's a lot of things that could do here. And as we enter onto this map, we're going to see the defensive side here, which is going to be, it looks like it's going to be Astra here once again defending first versus Obey Alliance. And I'm really, really wanting to see this composition.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like that you mentioned is how we've seen a little bit of Sigma, not as much as we used to maybe a few months ago, where Sigma was just a key to any map pretty much. But right now they are deciding to play other heroes, and once again I think this is going to be a strength for any team coming into trials, coming into contenders, is the ability to play any sort of hero when needed and adjusting to compositions and to counters as soon as they can, which it seems like Obey Alliance has been consistently good at, instead of what we've seen from Astra, where they have one or two compositions that they run, but they're not very strong at them.
I'm just hyper focused on Lethal right now if this is going to actually come out. And it is! We're going to have the pirate ship, friends, with double sails. Both the Orisa and the Reinhardt here to lead the way. And now you have a real challenge, even more so, because this is going to make the Widowmaker practically obsolete if those shields are constantly covering Lethal.
And I mean, definitely a really, really interesting composition. And once again, we see Obey's confidence coming into this match, because this is not something that you would like to play against a really, really good opponent, where you know that if your Bastion gets taken down, then there's nothing you can do in that first pick. Teemo gets taken down by Lethal. They are going to be moving the payload, and everyone hiding. They don't want to get picked. But unfortunately, that payload also coming into the first checkpoint. Xiao also getting 2 picks. And this is it. It seems like this is really what they're going to be running throughout the map.
I mean, when the kinetic grasp cannot withstand that much damage. Even though, like I was saying, it's great when you're going against a Reaper. It can mitigate a lot of it. You generate the shield. But Lethal is just pumping out so much and has so much coverage that at this point, you're not even seeing Khan commit the amplification the immortality field to keep Lethal alive, because it's not even needed.
Yeah, I mean, now we see a point where Astra is trying to run a legit composition, but is it going to be enough? They do have that immortality field. It seems like they're trying to get those picks, and they're able to maybe hold the defense right now.
Yeah, they're moving in the right direction. They do force it out. It does dislodge Lethal to get taken down, but with all the attention thrown to Lethal, there is still so much else around this payload from Obey that is just exerting so much force onto Astral. You've got the crowd control from the Brig and the stuns. It's just really going to bring that dive composition down another peg, and Astral is going again in the right direction, because dislodging that Bastion is key to make sure that this payload doesn't keep moving.
It's definitely a good start, but you weren't able to take everyone down like you wanted to hold the defense. So now, once again, they're going to be able to get to the second point. That Bastion right now position, and the high ground is getting those picks again.
Oh my goodness, the amplification matrix allowed Lethal to obliterate that front line. No one going to stick around for that engagement. And this, I mean, you find yourself in a very difficult predicament, especially when you're going into this last phase. This rounding corner and this high ground, you have to play perfectly from Astra to take the advantage over Lethal.
Yeah, and actually, as a matter of fact, on the questionnaire that we get from every single team, we saw Obey Alliance saying that Lethal's favorite composition was pirate ship. So we're definitely seeing that right now, and it's working really good for them. 5 minutes left on the time bank. And once again, Astra really not knowing what to do, but now it's just getting harder for them.
There's a little bit of a flank rotation here coming out by Astral, and you see Obey actually responding to it and taking the high ground of their own. This is literally a team swap of sides at the present moment, and Obey is if lasting much longer on this high ground, going to get the better end of this exchange, and finding value gets one onto Levitate and almost takes out Skyle. And now with this separation, you've got a little bit of a harassment though, because the team is divided by Obey. This is a great chance for Astral to now collapse onto only 3 over top. Does force out the Primal Rage, survives through Lethal, and the tank configuration has to be forced out. So great recovery from Obey. The support line keeps them going. Lethal is still here and nuking everyone, and goes for the Romic robot dance as well. And this is just well-coordinated communication by Obey, despite having disjointed numbers.
Really good dance that we saw from Lethal, and yeah, like you say, really good communication that they're running. They do know how to make those rotations, and for a few seconds they didn't even see the payload moving because they knew that having the high ground was going to give them the biggest advantage. It keeps doing so, and once again, this might be a point where they're able to take it back.
Yeah, there we go. That early lead with the Death Blossom onto the backline support, allowing Teemo to follow up. There's no immortality field to be used and forced out. This is where Astral has to take control of this final stage. Lovely shield wall blocking. That consistent damage from Roadhog was being mitigated by dodging in and out of that shield, and I love doing that myself when I play Orisa, even though I don't play her that much anymore now because she got nerfed. But that's just great tank play on the front line coming out from Teemo.
Yeah, once again, they're doing a really good job, and finally, Astra able to hold the defense for a little bit longer, but the attacking are also coming through once again.
Yep, Sound Barrier now going to be forced out from the defensive side to keep this line healthy. Pulse Bomb in the back, doesn't get the kill, but it does get some explosive damage to allow the follow-through coming out up front as well. And now you've got Eli getting a double with this Tracer play, and this is now a great position to be in for Astra. You're starting to gain some momentum, you're generating these ultimates, and you're staggering out your own ultimate usage to make this work in the long run.
There you go. Now they're playing the Reaper. Now things get a little bit more exciting, and those 5 minutes that they had left for the third checkpoint are now down to 2:25. So they are changing composition. No more bashing that we're going to be seeing from them.
Oh no!
It's going to be a key for them.
Teemo got solo, had to force the Primal Rage, did not want to have to use it there, but had to defensively to survive, so you don't find yourself getting caught out and having the numbers disadvantage. Teemo does get stunned. The Earth Shatter comes through just after the Primal Rage ends, and the Pulse Bomb does get the double. Chow saying bye to both of those members, as you've got Lethal coming in at the tail end of it, cleaning up with another double of their own. Minute and 55 seconds, and now with this payload continuing to round the corner, the self-destruct is there to force anyone back nobody can touch. And you have Obey Alliance completing with just under 2 minutes, but I have to say, Ad Astral wearing off that 3 minutes, I'm very impressed with that.
Very, very ambitious plays that we are seeing from Obey Alliance. They know exactly what to play, and they were able to run with a pirate ship throughout first and second point. So, you know, that's definitely a composition that we love to see. It's just so interesting, especially at this level in trials, and, you know, seeing teams that feel so confident that they're able to run it. And, you know, once you get to this point, you're not only making Ad Astra lose, but you're also just messing up with their confidence. You know, you're messing up with their mental, which is not exactly the thing you want to be if you're their team. And, you know, struggling a lot, but great defense that they were able to hold at the end. I really like finally seeing that Reaper being played as well for Astra. I think it added so much, exactly what they needed, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. If they are able to run this Reaper or a very, very aggressive composition coming into the attacker side, that is definitely going to put them into advantage, and they might be able to finally be able to play against Obey, which has been so hard for them.
Yeah, Obey has been definitely bringing everything to the table here, and Astral is really just trying to recover from it. The switch to the Reaper, I definitely agree with you. I think that's been their best opportunity, and also the synergy that they had towards the end with the Tracer. That dynamic between the two was very helpful as well, because, I mean, if you can cause enough dismay on Obey, who's already been being the one to bring dismay and just perplexity to these types of engagements, match aggression with aggression. You know, that might really be the answer for Astra here to try and compete. And, you know, with this defensive side, we're going to take a look now. Lethal showing us something a little different, though, going on to this hit scan with the Widowmaker and having Chow on this Tracer. So I'm curious how well that's going to work, and it'll most likely only stick around for this first initial defensive hold, and then probably change it up towards that second and third phase by Obey. So that'll be the real telling point of how this first segment goes with Lethal on the Widow.
And we really haven't seen much of Lethal's Widow before, so that should be really interesting if Lethal is able to get those early picks. Also, a key to try to hold it, to even try to completely hold Team at Astra into this first point. That would give them such a good advantage. We see her, hiding for now. But in the meantime, Kyle is also going to be on the Widowmaker, so obviously very, very exciting to see that duel.
Yeah, and Lethal's so far in the back, just hidden, waiting for this chance to get that early pick to counter this Widow play. And you can tell that, honestly, it's a waiting game, really, for Lethal. That's the goal here. As the payload continues to move through under this archway, there's no real presence. And at this point, Astra's probably thinking, when's it going to happen? When is this fight going to erupt? And it hasn't yet. Lethal now finally gets some sightline with a team of Astral pressing forward. And, oh, Lethal! You played so patiently, but got domed out of that fight. And this is going to be now Astra's opportunity to push this with a very great time bank.
Lethal didn't even really get a chance to try to get a pick. Unfortunately, it was too late, and he was spotted very early on. So great advantage that we see the attackers having for right now. But the fight is not over. Obey once again ready to attack, to hold the defense, even though it seems like everything was lost for them.
I spoke too soon. The pick onto Lethal was a great lead to not have to worry and play defensively, but Skyle and the rest could not continue their advantage. Even with both reses being expended to try and regroup the teams, Astral still found the short end of the stick. And now as we take a look at the ult economy, it's about even, but Obey is in a better position now for Lethal to find some sightlines.
That's right, they're going to be having sort of advantage coming into this next fight, but Mayday is also going to having that Transcendence to help out his team at any point, and also that Flux coming through.
Yeah, Flux is going to get a nice early advantage, but the Transcendence is there to respond by Astral. Great timing to use to make sure that everyone is healthy going into this. You've got Admiral with the Valkyrie going to boost a lot underneath, and the fact that you have this Zenyatta being fueled underneath with the Discord Orb and the damage, there is so much. Somebody stop this Zenyatta play. There's the Pulse Bomb that finally shuts it down, but there is already far too many in the death cam in the top right. And Obey is going to fall short here. What a demonstration by Astra on the Zen play.
There you go. Now we see Ad Astra playing really aggressive and making it work. I really like seeing that Zenyatta play coming through, especially on this meta where we haven't seen Zenyatta as much. It's always very, very exciting to get those picks as well, and, getting that Discord Orb to help take down the enemy as soon as you can.
Hey, friend, let's talk some physics. Okay, let's talk physics. I'm going to throw a rock. You're going to throw a rock. Sigma's going at it right now as both reconvene with the rest of their teams. You got Chow on the high ground, though, looking for a backline flank. The Tracer play is going to be very lucid in the back to try and get the takedown onto the Widow play. Does get a good opportunity to counter. Has to force the recall. The 1v1 continues to go in the back line. And surprisingly, you actually see Skyle survive. Healthy on the front, sticking well and healthy. As Ellie has to draw some attention back to that Roadhog, dodging out of the way of the hook. There is some assistance from Kazox, and honestly, this is a very scrappy fight that Astra is really finding value with.
Yeah, and those early picks coming from Obey was really good. Once again, Lethal coming through and helping out. He doesn't want to give up just yet for the second point. And it's working really good for them. They're consistently good at getting those early picks and playing really aggressive, which is why Obey has been doing so good on this match. It's something that is benefiting them not only when they're attacking, but also when they're defending.
My goodness, Lethal, just stop it. Stop it. They do not want to feel this type of pain right now. And the fact that you had the Pulse Bomb committed by Ellie onto Lethal for that 1v1 exchange and lost in it. Oh, here comes the 1v1 again. Come on! Lethal wants it! Oh, but no! The Zen play comes out from the side. It's like peekaboo. As there's 2 minutes and 25 seconds still to work. Helva gonna force out that whole hog with the nano boost and getting some decent damage onto Astra. And now you see the momentum shift. Chaos has been answered by Chaos. And you've got Obey now just staggering at. Oh no, Levitate. I'm so sorry, friend. Well, as there's 2 minutes left to go, Obey has finally gained some ground here, and they've gained their bearings.
That's right, but once again able to hold a defense. They were struggling throughout the first point, but now they seem as confident as we've seen them the entire time. They have a great ult economy as well coming for them, but at Astra also looking pretty good. They're going to be able to counter, and with that transcendence as well, keeping the team alive.
You're gonna have that pulse bomb come through onto Levitate early, which is not what you need. You cannot solely rely on your Zenyatta, and now you have no coverage as well. There is far too much being just thrown at Astra right now that Obey is constantly keeping presence. A minute and 20 seconds, so Astra needs to try and escape out of this and recover for one last good engage.
A few ults that we saw being used for Obey Alliance, and now at Astra should be having the advantage coming into this next fight. They're going to have that flux if they want to initiate with it, and it's going to be really hard for them to try to counter it.
Lethal. Oh no! No, you didn't! No, you didn't! I think everybody saw that with me and is like, really? Mid-air, out of the translocate, as that pick is going to give some drawn out of time. You've got now Ad Astral with these ultimates, and they have to use them sparingly. You've got the whole hog and the transcendence committed, but you still have the Valkyrie, also going to have the flux and the pulse bomb. It's now or never, do or die. Admiral comes in with a nano boost up top with the pistol, going battle mercy, 1v1! There's the assistance by the Zen once again, and this checkpoint just might be reached in the chaos.
Lethal also looking insane throughout the match. He once again doesn't want to give up just yet. Unless he's taken down, he is not going to stop getting those picks over and over again. Lethal taking down Ellie, and now he finally gets taken down. So it seems like this is going to be finally the team at Astra able to get to the second checkpoint.
I mean, there is going to be a stall coming out by Kenny, but I'm sorry, that hamster's not sticking around for long because that ball's going to break. Because you've got a minute and 30 seconds now for Astra to push in this final phase, and they're looking to at least just complete this map.
You need to really watch out for Lethal. He's ready to get any picks if you're not careful, and if you're in a bad position, like they could be as your support. So for now, no picks so far. There you go. Lethal taking down Mayday and delaying a little bit for what exactly Astra doesn't want to happen. They only have a minute left, so they really can get those picks. Taking down Lethal early in the fight is going to be a key for them. They don't have many ults. They use everything to make sure they could get to the second point. So now they're in a huge disadvantage, only with that pulse bomb and maybe getting that EMP as soon as they can.
With the dive coming through on the high ground, you've got some great disruption. Lethal going to escape out of this cleanly, mind you, with full health from the assistance of the supports. So there's not going to be too much pressure in the backline and keeping sightlines available as this rotation around that center pillar continues. On the low ground, though, you've got Helvix looking for a hook when ready, and even though Astra's playing very aggressive here, Obey is actually responding defensively very well and knowing when to digress back and look for a recontest. As Teemo is going to get solo, almost gets picked off, and needs some assistance from the healers, but no, you've got Levitate taken down by Kenny, and there is no way that Mayday can survive all by themselves. The Coalescence is going to be thrown out, but the Bionade prevents any further distribution of healing. The overtime is going to commence, but it's not going to last long. Only the Diva and Tracer play from Hazox and Eli remain. This is just a drawn out fight, and Obey Alliance, despite having some challenges in that second point, will be able to prevail on this defensive hold here in Junkertown, and this is just a matter of time.
Yeah, this is about to be over, really. There is nothing else, and the Bastion comes back. Lethal on the Bastion trying to get those picks at the end. Once again, a dance, but it's just going to be too late for at Astra. Obey takes them down over and over again. Amazing performance that we saw from them. They adapt, they made the changes. We saw a lot of composition being run by them, and it just worked amazingly throughout every single match that we were able to see.
I gotta give major credit though to Lethal and MVP plays. But in addition to that, just also the tank line allowing that much open space for Lethal not to be collapsed on. There was just a lot of overall well-coordinated synergy for Obey to take that a 3-0 here over Astral. There were years of growth though. I really did like some of the adaptation and changes that came through, especially on Junkertown, how they were willing to make those committed changes to bring them to a point of where they were able to at least almost complete the map.
Yeah, once again, when we were able to see actually that Reaper, it worked out really well for them. And they were able to take down a lot of the time that we saw of the allies had into the third checkpoint. So they were looking really good when they made those changes, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough for at Astra. Once again, they were looking pretty good, but they do need to adapt a little bit faster to what they saw. It was a really interesting match. We saw even bashing being played out. So really, really exciting what we saw from these teams.
And you know, we've got some more excitement coming up. We actually do have an interview, I believe, coming up here. We will be taking a player from the winning team Obey Alliance. And again, it looks like it's going to be Helv who's been playing that amazing front line, just doing a fantastic job. I think we're getting him in right now too. Let's see. Helv, are you here? I think we're just bringing you in. How you doing, Helv? We're gonna just throw you right into it, friend.
I'm good.
That's good. Well, we're glad
Really
to have your
lagging.
time.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really lagging and it was a funny game, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, your team demonstrated a very great level of gameplay coordination. And, you know, going into these maps, you take a 3-0 right now. You're really demonstrating yourself as a team. How do you... I just like to always ask, because I don't think, I'm personally at least not had the chance to, you know, speak to you or interview you, but how do you like the new changes coming into this? Do you feel like you're finding a footing of what types of compositions you particularly like to run?
I mean, it's kind of hard because like we had like we lost like 3 players, but I think it was. I don't think we have like the set comp, but we start getting better. Like when we lost against Shirkolt and we just worked really hard.
And I found that really interesting that you guys running a bunch of different compositions throughout every single map. Is there one that you feel more comfortable with, or you think you're going to keep playing throughout going into the future matches that you have, or are you still trying to play a lot of different compositions? See kind of what works best against other teams.
I mean, we were kind of trolling them because they didn't really know what to do. Like, I'm sure you saw that like we are just going in, spawn killing and stuff. I mean, I don't think they're like bad players and stuff. Maybe they had a bad day, but like we saw like first map they were like maybe a bit split, and we know that like we can always surprise people with some composition, but they seem to not really understand what to do against certain comp. So it was really funny match.
I mean, we can see it. You know, there's a lot of exploitation of weakness, and for a team like yourself to be able to evaluate that and adapt in the moment is so very critical. And one thing I kind of want to touch on is there's a lot I've noticed seeming to revolve around lethal, especially more so on Route 66. I mean, is there a lot of focus to kind of just basically give lethal and your DPS room to do whatever they want? Because it seems like you can play that front line so well to just give them space.
I mean, Little is just like really good actually right now. Like
Definitely. I mean, we can see it. I mean, especially when it comes to...
Yeah, I'm lagging, but
no, you're good.
So like Little is just like really flex, and I think he's like Ash is really like in top level, if at least in Europe contenders. So people should look at him because I think he really step up. It's like a teammate that I really like. Like every day is like really motivated to play, so it's really nice to have that.
And you know, one last question that I have for you actually is, you know, we saw, for example, Lethal running a lot of different heroes and making it work perfectly for your team. And it seems like you guys, like we were saying, you guys play a lot of different compositions. Do you think this is one of the biggest strengths that your team has, being able to each one of you play a lot of different heroes at a top level?
I don't know yet. I think I mean the DPS. They can like Lethal is really flex. He can play flex DPS too. He can play Genji at good level, even Doomfist. So for its scan, it's like really good. But after that, in my team is not really like used to be like flex god, especially like me and Monkey. Like we're not like the best team on dive, but we start to learn. So I just think that we have like Chao that has like a lot of experience because he played like a lot of contender season. So he helped like he was like your coach, and now he's like the DPS, you know. So it's really fun to play with him.
Well, and I mean, it only makes it even better. You gotta love who you work with in this sense. I mean, it's looking like you're playing with friends to have a good time and those to continue growing. And honestly, you gotta find that synergy. And it's great to hear that you have that amongst each other and see that type of motivation from your peers on your team and just your coaching and everything else. So we do truly appreciate your time, Hal, for coming
Thank
in and
you.
speaking with us a little bit. So we do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Congratulations on the win.
You too. Thank you. Bye bye.
And it's been a pleasure. See you later, friend.
Yeah.
And for those that are still tuning in, we still have matches to come, or a match to come. It's going to be CBA versus Young and Beautiful. So we're going to take a brief break to allow those teams to get ready so that we can see this matchup of what we would even say is David and Goliath. So don't go anywhere, friends. Welcome back, friends. We are here with some more Overwatch action. We just saw Obey Alliance take a 3-0 score over Astra as we enter in now between the team of CBA versus Young and Beautiful. And we're going to start out taking a look here at that team composition for CBA in just a moment. And honestly, I mentioned it before the break, and Dryad, we've got a David and Goliath scenario. And I'm really curious to see how CBA is going to be able to bolster themselves against a team that we all know, Young and Beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. And we know Young and Beautiful being the favorites for this match. They're a really, really strong team. But once again, CBA does have the opportunity to come back and, studying what Young and Beautiful has been playing and how they can counter it. They definitely have an opportunity to make an upset for us today.
Yes, definitely. And, we've seen Young and Beautiful, their tank line is stellar. And that's one of the things that I'm really curious to see how CBA is going to try and counter against. Typically, again, we've seen a lot of this type of dive-centric composition. We saw it a little bit earlier against Obey Alliance along with AD Astra, or Ad Astra, to where we saw, that Winston Diva play. A little bit of the, uniqueness when it came to that Junkertown mapping where we had the interesting Bastion play, but also just the change-up of utilizing the, shield composition like a Sigma and a Roadhog. So as we go into our first map, which is going to be Busan here shortly, I really want to see how CBA is going to acclimate it, because yesterday, if I remember correctly, when CBA was playing, they were looking to have a little bit more of that Zarya Winston composition. There was even a little bit of the Wrecking Ball as well that was kind of tossed into the mix, and see if that's going to be something that sticks today as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Last time that I saw CBA, they were playing a lot of that double bubble composition, and it was sometimes working, but they were definitely struggling a little bit. So I hope to see today them adapting to the composition so much better, which I know they are able to do so. And for Young and Beautiful, they have played a lot of different compositions throughout the matches that we've seen so far in trials, which is, I also think, super interesting coming into this map and starting in Busan, where there's so many different maps and you have the ability to play dive. You're able to play that double bubble composition. If you want to even play that Sigma that we've seen a little bit of, you're able to do so. So really, really interesting to see once again if CBA is going to be once again forcing that double bubble, or they decide to play something else.
Yeah, and I think at this point, because we've seen, Young and Beautiful play, so much not only in trials, but also in contenders, since they've been brought down from the previous month that they were dropped out here to come back into trials. I mean, one of the things I would like to really see CBA at this point do is to try and understand the aggression and that ebb and flow that comes from Young and Beautiful, because I think Young and Beautiful is just going to be outright more aggressive than CBA. And it's how CBA will respond to this type of aggression.
Yeah, really, it comes to the aggression that every team wants to give. If you let Young and Beautiful take the aggression at the beginning, get those early picks, then you're going to be in a huge disadvantage. So this is exactly what CBA needs to do coming into this matchup. That is a little bit scary for them, but once again, just playing really, really aggressive. Whatever composition they decide to run, they just need to make sure they're getting those early picks with the DPS and also the tanks being as aggressive, but also as protective as they can be.
And as we take a look onto the beautiful downtown, we've got all the times for that train to depart. The question is, who is going to depart this first round with a W? And we take a look now before these doors open at a few of the composition. We do see that double dive here with the Winston and Diva hovering over for Young and Beautiful. I would not be surprised to see a Tracer Sombra play coming out after the teleport is here. And as these two reconvene towards the center, it's going to be interesting to see where these fireworks begin.
Once again, we're seeing the Reaper from both sides, so there's going to be a really interesting matchup coming for both teams.
Yeah, a lot of damage with the Reapers coming out. Great hack on the front side, specifically going to get Young and Beautiful's Lucio. A little bit utilization reduced here as the continued assault comes out. Art finding some decent shots onto that tank body, but there is enough to support to keep it alive as you've got Lullish going to go down. And honestly now, Lulz-ish, correction. Let me get my S's and L's correct there. As Young and Beautiful continues to dominate towards this lower position, the hack again onto Sobek is really critical to, again, remove that utility, and you've got this now collapse coming through, the coalescence to secure it, and that's going to be Young and Beautiful persevering on this first point.
really good job that we saw for the D.Va. They're getting those picks and also helping out, killing for the team as much as you can. Also getting that high ground like we see right now going to be helping them out so much. They should have the advantage coming into the defense, and also that self-destruct ready for the D.Va to use at any point. But on the other side, CBA does have that sound barrier to keep themselves alive for a little bit longer if things start going wrong.
EMP onto 5. There is a swift follow-up by Young and Beautiful, cleaning it up here. And again, that single ultimate can just be so crippling to CBA, and now they've at least got the EMP out of this for the next fight.
Yeah, Jonah getting those early picks as well on their Reaper. Really, really good job. And the Sambira that wasn't able to use because we saw it getting hacked very, very early on. So now a little bit of a disadvantage the CBA is having. They need to play now really aggressive with that EMP that we see is they are looking for right now.
I think getting spotted out, needing to be careful. Nice hook mid-air, though, on to Lulzish. And you've got the follow-up by Art in the backline because the sound barrier was at least used just before being picked off. But with both supports out of the fight, CBA's in a difficult position. Can Young and Beautiful survive through it? With only having 3 remaining, and you've basically got Sombra out of that fight, CBA's going to take this and start generating some percentage.
And it really seems like on this meta and seeing the Reaper being played out, this is such an important hero coming into the composition that the teams decide to run. CBA looking pretty good because Art is able to initiate and get those picks early on. Then with the aggression that he has and how much he can carry the tanks, and there's nothing they can do.
Lulzish now going to jump into the back after you already see so much damage being pumped onto that D.Va play from Young and Beautiful. Nice job by Vital, though, getting this pick and the D-Mech, mind you, on the front. But Lulzish with this Primal Rage says otherwise, diving onto the backline, waiting for that Reaper to come back into the real world. As you've got this percentage now going to be stripped away. CBA is going to have a hard time keeping this any longer. But 43% is still a proud moment to have when you're going against Young and Beautiful.
And for a second, we saw CBA holding it just fine, but the Primal Rage, like you mentioned, was such a key into the fight, looking really good, and once again having such a great advantage with the EMP coming up. They should be able to get this point at least to 99 before it gets taken by CBA if they had a chance, especially with the Reaper being really aggressive.
And you've got an EMP aggressively coming out onto 2. Art, though, with the Death Blossom to counter, and a well-rounded assistance by Wicked with the D.Va play is going to cause this to switch back to CBA quite convincingly, mind you, and going to cease this at that 99% with these last few stragglers needing to be picked off here, and that's going to be the swap.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mentioned, getting to that 99, so looking pretty good. This could be last fight territory, and a lot of ults that were used into that fight. Now coming again, Young and Beautiful does have the pulse bomb getting it, and one of the supports is going to be super important. They are also going to have sound barrier that's going to help them keep alive, so they really should have the advantage.
Oh, but the EMP comes out, does not manage to stop the sound barrier from Young and Beautiful. You had a beautiful positioning from Young, able to keep out of the range of the EMP to allow that to cause Young and Beautiful to have enough health going into this fight. There's already a pick onto Vital in the backside. Jonah getting the value necessary. The pulse box comes in for 2. Both supports obliterated. And now you've got CBA being taken down piece by piece. Jonah for the quad. This is going to be a take back. Chaos is trying to just run the clock. And with you being hacked, you are going nowhere, baby hamster. And you've got that final seconds lasting. No one can touch from CBA. And that's 100-84 for this first round in downtown.
The best pulse bomb you could see, being able to take down both of the supports at once. They have no chance if they have no healing coming through for CBA. So exactly what they needed to do. They played really good and playing really aggressive. They were struggling a little bit coming into that fight, but they were finally able to take it back. That pulse bomb being such a big part of it. Now coming into this next map, also really interesting to see CBA did look pretty strong. They were just struggling with that ult economy that we saw towards the end because there was not much they could do. It seems like they are going to be playing a different composition. It could be that Roadhog and that Wrecking Ball that we've seen a lot of teams play throughout on this map, but I don't think it's been the best for anyone.
It's really going to rely a lot on Wicked's disruption with this Wrecking Ball. And as this side position comes through, Vital gets some potential early damage with that dynamite and acknowledges that Young and Beautiful is there. Wicked also has a nice side angle here. Almost gets hacked by that Sombra play, but is very well retreated to survive. Needs to get out of there before brought down. Able to do so with the assistance from that support line from Alpha. Hack now on the front. Needs to be extremely careful as the collapse now comes through. Young and Beautiful dominantly going to press forward. Does get the pick onto Chaos, and Jonah once again finds the support lines in the back, and that's going to be another dominant force here from Young and Beautiful. CBA played it early, but unfortunately was too far forward with Wicked.
Yeah, and if you're CBA, you need to punish the aggression the Young and Beautiful is giving you. You can't allow it to happen, or they're definitely going to be taking the advantage like they do so right now. But good thing is that CBA is able to recontest fairly quickly as long as they don't get picked. They should be having a great advantage also with the Ashe being played out. Oh, but it gets taken down so easily.
Yeah, there is just such a well-coordinated play. You have the Sombra patiently waiting, gets the hack, finds the damage. Coach Gun isn't going to help you when you've got a D.Va and a Winston immediately following up from Young and Beautiful. And CBA, their attempt is completely throttled.
I absolutely love seeing Havco getting those picks as well. Then D.Va, that, you know, it's one of the heroes that we haven't seen as often recently, but playing that dive, even though it could be a little bit risky, they're making it worth it going also to be having EMP into the next fight, and they don't even need it because they're already taking the rear advantage.
They see the vital use of this Ashe Mercy. We've seen it in other places as well, how dominant it can be when you boost that Ashe, and Young and Beautiful acknowledges that instantly.
Yeah, they make sure they're taking down the Ashe and the Mercy as soon as they can, especially the Mercy, so there are no opportunities for any rest that would put you in a disadvantage for a few seconds. So they're playing it really well, and also EMP that's going to be unused a few seconds initiating the fight, and he obviously using it, the engaging tool that we see right now.
On to 4, the Tesla damage is going to hurt. Lightning is no fun, friends, as that will bring down multiple members on the front side. May not have gotten the execution, but Lulzish is feeling very confident that they participated. There's one on Baby Hamster. As you've got this being that final fight territory, somebody has to touch from CBA. It is going to be a tall task ahead of them to even get there in time, as there is no one able to do so. That will be a 2-round in a row for Young and Beautiful, and they're going to take this first map on Busan, and the second time, quite convincingly, versus the downtown instance that we saw against CBA.
Yeah, that's right. They were looking so strong, and they also had so many ults left to use, but that wasn't even necessary for them. It was just more than enough for them to take everyone down from CBA. CBA was looking really good at the beginning, but now they're struggling a little bit more. But, you know, it just gives us signs of life that they are able to bring this back if they want to. The key is definitely going to be playing really aggressive as well and punishing the aggression from Young and Beautiful. Until you do that, you're going to be at a great disadvantage, but because one of the greatest things about Young and Beautiful is their communication and the way that they use their ult economy, which is such a key at any level of Overwatch, making sure that you're not using every single ult at once, but you're playing one or after the other and just using what's enough to win a fight. And on the other side, when you're losing, you start panicking, you start using more ults to make sure that you can win and that you have a chance, which you need to calm down, you need to relax and make sure that you're able to play as slow but also as aggressive as you can.
Well, I mean, to build on that mental dynamic you touched on, it's very true for CBA. The positive thing here to say is that when you've got the Ashe Mercy constantly being the focus from Young and Beautiful, you know you're doing something right. They acknowledge that this Ashe play with the boosted damage is something they really have to shut down. They cannot allow themselves to be pressed by this type of composition because the Ashe can just already do so much damage outright. Boosted, it will be able to take down those necessary targets on Young and Beautiful. So at this point, moving forward into the map of Hollywood that we're going to see, I'd really like to maybe almost see a little bit more of a closer proximity of where the team is when moving into a fight because of how well the Sombra play is being demonstrated by Young and Beautiful. Because that's really what's fueling that early takedown on CBA is that Sombra play, the harassment, just that unawareness of when it's going to enter into a fight. So I'm really curious to see how CBA is going to try and transition to that into this next one.
Yeah, and if you are playing the Ashe and Mercy, and you know that this is a strong ability and strong heroes that you're playing into your composition, you need to make sure that instead of getting taken down first, you are taking down the other team first. That is going to be a key if you are waiting a few seconds and playing very passive. Playing the Ashe and Mercy, that's definitely going to put you at a disadvantage. The more aggressive you are, the more of an advantage you're going to have. So, playing around Young and Beautiful, making sure that you're getting those early picks is the key for CBA right now to bring this back to maybe go into a 1-1 on this next map that now we see is going to be Hollywood.
And with us taking a look at it, it will be CBA on the attack first here. So Young and Beautiful will be playing this defense. And I feel that this is going to at least favor a little bit on the defensive side. CBA aggressively contesting against Young and Beautiful has been difficult. So when you're going into this choke point and then also that high ground position that Young and Beautiful is going to be able to maintain, I'd really like to see CBA try and use that side position for the stairway to try and compete on the high ground or even take that wide flank. But if that wide flank is taken, has to be very aware of where the Sombra is.
And I really want to see, it seems like for the defense, they're going to be running a Diva and a Roadhog, which, it's something that we haven't seen as often, but it could work for them. And a composition that we actually even seen played in Overwatch like recently. So definitely something to be on the lookout for. Roadhog could be either really strong or really weak against the counter composition that the other team is playing.
As the seconds count down, we're looking to see what that composition is going to be, and we're going to still keep the Ashe and the Mercy, but with the double bubble. You've got the Zarya and the Winston pressuring up towards this archway, and surprisingly, Young and Beautiful is not going to play this front line high ground position. They're actually going to play that side angle where Lulzish actually goes way deep into the back line, and that's a pick that you want to take advantage of. Even though you've got Vital going down as well, you've lost the front tank line and a huge harass, but no, Wicked jumps in far forward, a little overzealous in play, does get picked off. You've got Vital back in, but now you're wishing you had that res for the Winston, as CBA finds himself in a difficult challenge because the respawns are coming through by Young and Beautiful.
Yeah, and we see that Winston getting taken down, but CBA is not able to get any value out of it. Now they're getting taken down one by one, and there's absolutely nothing they can do. Almost coming into the respawn, like you see Young and Beautiful. Just not the first time that we see this today.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got that much forward aggression, Young and Beautiful now going to keep that Sombra play in the corner, looking for some early picks, has to translocate out. CBA is going to be able to reform here and come back with another engagement, but if they can find another Vital pick on an aggressive play like Lulzish did, that's going to be the chance that they need.
Yeah, that's right. And also the Moira getting that coalescence early on is going to initiate the fight, is going to be such a good engaging tool that they could use.
And with the dive coming through by the Diva and the Winston, the coalescence committed early onto Sobek is not what you need. The fact that you had the support play pick out so early, and with this Jonah consistency on that Tracer, it's going to be really challenging. But again, with this aggressive play, you can see CBA take advantage of it if somebody does push too far forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we've talked about now a few times, is just punishing the aggression that we see from Young and Beautiful, because that's a lot of confidence that they have to pushing into their spawn pretty much. So if you're able to play around it, you do have that EMP coming out from Young and Beautiful like we see right now.
Ooh, yep, on top of the car, everyone in sight, going to get 4 out of 6. The supports being in a very good position, though, to play a little bit further back. I like the awareness, knowing and keeping track of when that EMP is going to be online. The coalescence from Alpha does fuel, despite losing one early. And with the takedown now onto the Lucio, it's going to put a lot of pressure onto Young and Beautiful with only this Moira here. And even though there was a disadvantage with the healers, you still see Young and Beautiful persevering just with their very well coordinated play.
Yeah, playing once again really aggressive. They do use a lot of ult now, so they could be at a great disadvantage now for the defense. And I'm just curious to see if CBA is able to take advantage of this. They do have that EMP coming up into this next fight. Using it very early on and getting a lot, like maybe 3 hacks, is going to help them out so much, exactly like we're going to see now.
Through the EMP, but it did not gain value. Literally in its mid-action, did not hit anyone. You've got Young and Beautiful just barely surviving through that because the EMP would have been critical. There were so many from Young and Beautiful. in that close proximity. The stagger comes out. We're in final fight territory now for CBA, and they have a challenge ahead of them.
Only 43 seconds left for CBA to do something about this attack. And now they start to worry. It's going to be really interesting to see. Playing that Coalescence early on, maybe pushing a Young and Beautiful back and making sure that the defense is hold a little bit back. Could put them in the advantage, but this is the last fight.
Person EMP overhead from Young and Beautiful. The Sombra, even though you lose some damage, you gain the utility. There is more than enough utility to go around from Young and Beautiful to surpass CBA. That will be a conclusion to this attack here with these few seconds. The Stragglers will try and compete on the point. But with that being said, we'll look to see now how long this can be drawn out from CBA. With the swap, though, here, because the sound barrier, well, you know, they actually have quite a bit coming through on this. The sound barrier could be enough, and they got an early pick onto this. The fact that you don't have the D.Va to mitigate that with the defense matrix could really just turn this around. Lolzish, though, taking down Alpha, solely remaining now onto Sobek. Vital goes down, and this is it. This has to be the nail in the coffin, no matter how many picks come through. There is the self-destruct overhead to take down Sobek, clean out those supports. And this overtime's going to be wicked away.
And this is one of the times where we see CBA panicking a lot. Many ults coming through that they could have worked, but we saw the Coalescence getting hacked. And so that puts you in such a disadvantage. You're not going to have the heals, and you're going to be taken down so fast after you use your Fade. So they didn't have the heals coming through, but they did have so much coming. They had one last chance, and unfortunately they couldn't make it work for them.
Not at all. But now that we've got the sides swapped, biggest thing that I would like to see from CBA, especially if Vital's going to stay on the Ashe, which is very, very good on this initial defense, maintaining these two high grounds, and more specifically, that back high ground where the balcony is. That could be very useful to transition between the two if they want to keep this Mercy and Ashe play, which they're already showing that they're going to.
Yeah, it seems like that's what we're going to be seeing for the defenders. So they do have a chance playing into this Ashe and playing a lot around the damage that is going to be coming through for the Dynamite, and also getting those headshots. That's exactly what the team needs to spend to make sure that Young Beautiful doesn't have as much time as they have. So spending a lot of time. And also one pick that I really like seeing is seeing the Sigma. That's going to be playing also around Ashe, making sure that she's fine and providing that shield as well. There's going to be a lot of protection for this hero, helping out on the high ground. So really, I really do like seeing the composition from CBA. They just need to make sure that they are playing around it, and they have good rotations in case Young and Beautiful is playing too aggressive against them.
With Young and Beautiful coming out, I like this Junkrat. It's going to spam a lot of damage, especially since you're going into Wicked, who has that shield. And Chaos needs to be very careful about this take a breather. But after getting the early intel, Caster Curse, they're going to go back to the Sombra. Why change what's not broken? But Lolish actually is going to go... Lolzish, wow, entirely changed. They're just going to go brawly right now. They just want to rush to this point.
I really like seeing that May actually exactly what they needed to do. Almost another shield that they're going to be having. That wall that doesn't allow you to do anything. Now, Young and Beautiful is going to recontest and take the high ground completely. Not what you want to happen if you're CBA.
Yeah, with that early May, that pick onto the May would have been critical, but the Cryo Freeze comes out just in time to withstand the damage. And Vital, still on this high ground, mind you, being uncontested is actually going to be a problem here for Young and Beautiful. CBA responded so quickly to that aggression. And Chaos on this high ground is just going to pump out damage. Baby D.Va is low, but still manages to get Alpha. And you've got Jonah picking up Wicked. Despite this unbelievable exchange and repositions, that is going to be Young and Beautiful with a hard push onto this point. Come through and claim this second map on Hollywood.
Jonah once again on the Reaper, also helping get those picks. And you know, the damage coming through from Reaper is just something that's so hard to counter, especially with the composition that we saw CBA running. Now Young and Beautiful having such a great advantage, almost like we were expecting for them if they're such a strong team over and over again. So looking amazing, really exactly knowing how to run over CBA, putting them in of the best position that they could be. We're in match point right now.
We are, and we're going to Junkertown for that potential match point. I want to see this consistent response, though, from CBA to Young and Beautiful. That high ground being quickly taken by Young and Beautiful, and the transition to the opposing high ground where the balcony was, that Vital was sitting on, there is so much acknowledgement of saying, all right, Young and Beautiful is going to take this, we have to abandon it. And that's hard for a lot of teams where you want to stick in and fight it, but to know that boundary of when to digress back and rubber band into the fight, there was still opportunities. It's just, I think once the fights get to be more extensive in time, you made the comment about, you know, when the ultimates are being used, especially on that recontest, that's where CBA starts to struggle. They're able to respond early, but the length of the fight and the tenacity that you need to withstand it, that's where it becomes very challenging for CBA.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like that you mentioned that high ground, because they did have the Ash, the Mercy, and the Sigma holding the high ground for as long as they could. But when you see the entire 6-stack of Young and Beautiful coming in to contest the high ground, you just know that you need to drop and go back to your team so you're protected. Unfortunately, they do this way too late, and the picks already went through for Young and Beautiful, so they're able to take the advantage. And that's exactly another thing that we were mentioning at the beginning of Hollywood, that if the main thing for any competition that CBA decides to run is that they are playing the rotations right. If they are taking way too long, it's not going to be good. Young and Beautiful is going to take the advantage, getting those picks if they see someone that's in a bad position, and absolutely win the fight with this.
And with these long sightlines coming out here, I'm really curious if that's going to cause any sort of transition from either team. We already saw Widowmaker come out earlier, and there was a lot of definite good show moments with the Widow play. But between these two teams, I feel like that would be a little bit more of a scarcity, more so by CBA because of the Ash, where Young and Beautiful have been playing this, you know, very heavy Sombra coordinated team play. I could see them carry that into this map of Junkertown, and really CBA being the one to adapt and adjust to take a little bit more of a risk going into this now match point.
Yeah, so really curious to see what CBA decides to run, and if they want to change things around. I think that could be really good for them, even if it's something that we haven't seen from them before. The main concern for them right now is to be able to counter Young and Beautiful. It's okay if there are some compositions that you practice in scrims, that you practice in other matches, but overall, the best performance we've seen, it's been from Young and Beautiful, doing amazing on any composition that they decide to run. So just playing around with this a lot, and if they decide to go with the Ash, I think they could benefit from it. Just once again, playing very aggressive when you need to be, and getting the early picks so that you do have an advantage and a chance against this team.
And as we have the few seconds drawing down, we will have Young and Beautiful on the attacking side first, with CBA on the defense. So as we take a look here, we're going to see a definite change up with their composition. You've got Wicked and Chaos bringing out the Sigma and the Roadhog, and Alpha gonna show that usage of Zenyatta, which again we saw on Junkertown do very, very well. We don't get to see it often, so I'm really liking the fact that we're going to bring this Discord Orb into this match. Also having a Widow and a Hanzo from DBA as well.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that I see this double sniper from CBA. Actually, they have been doing really good in Junkertown, and they do seem like they have a chance when they play this map. So they do feel really comfortable with the double sniper, and I think this is going to be a key if they want to bring this match back. Playing really aggressive and, you know, having that advantage of those double snipers, giving you such a great help. But also, you know, you need to watch out for Jonah.
I mean, the other part too is I'm really curious to see how this crossfire is going to come through with Art and Vital. Jonah looks for that peek over top. Nobody going to play too far forward. Nice respect here to Young and Beautiful from CBA, making sure that they are not going to find themselves in a very advantageous position. Art gonna still kind of get some pick damage in here with that arrow just around the side, not yet committing to anything yet. Both teams playing more respectively as you finally see the Tracer aggression dive into the back line, but because you've got the pocket healer onto Vital, there's no real opportunity for that Tracer to find immense value. As Art continues to maintain this, a pick comes through now for both sides, but you lose the tank here for Young and Beautiful, and that's going to give a better opportunity for CBA to collapse into this.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you use your tank, which is not ideal, but it seems like your team is going to be able to hold just fine and still play as aggressive as you can, as long as you can get those picks and keep coming through with them.
Yeah, Vital acknowledging that Jonah was looking for the Zen, but that whole time, Vital's been saying, I see you, friend. Oh, but the harassment comes through. You don't see the execution there onto Lulzish. So, at this point now, CBA has to fall back and can't commit to that fight.
And we saw that CBA was struggling to get those picks as well. And, you know, a lot of aggression coming through. They don't want this Widowmaker to get any picks throughout the map. So, you know, playing really aggressive, making their lives so much harder. And Young Beautiful looking very comfortable once again are going to be having such a great advantage and into the ult economy that they have. But, you know, CBA does have a chance getting those early picks and, you know, helping Vital get a few of them could be a key if, like we're seeing, they're able to take the shield down.
Yeah, the pile drive coming in over top is so critical. You've got the follow through. The hook comes out to bring chaos to the low ground, and now you're in a very difficult position. Whole hog is committed. You're tucked into the corner. You have to bail. The numbers advantage continues to stack for Young and Beautiful, and the transcendence there, really, I guess, for an insurance policy, or it was a fat finger. So one or the other.
I mean, honestly, when you have so many ults also coming up, you're going to be having that flux and you're going to be having dragons forehand, so that's going to be helping you in that transcendence. Well, you're comfortable with it. Maybe it was a fat finger, but it seems like they should be able to hold just fine without it.
Yep, and you got Alpha committing there to survive through it, but it's not going to be enough. There is a lot of just heavy mobility with Young and Beautiful having this Wrecking Ball, so much disruption in conjunction with the Tracer, causing a lot of problem. And then once you have anybody out in the open, you're going to have the Discord coming out here from Young and Beautiful, just cleaning up.
A lot of time that they have, 5 minutes. Once again, not the first time that we see this happening today. Young and Beautiful looking pretty good so far, but you know, CBA just needs to make a few changes, and yet making it work so far. So, you know, it's not the worst thing that we've seen from them. Once again, I think Junkertown is definitely one of their best maps.
As you can, yes, with this much time on the bank, it for sure feels like that. Red's going to come out, though, by Sobek to get Vital back online. As the Flux is being held onto by Wicked. No need to force that out early, especially when you find a lot of your allies being picked off, unfortunately, with this chaotic play in the back line and consistent harass by the Wrecking Ball. I'd really like to see some great ground control onto this Wrecking Ball so that CBA can get the kill onto Young and Beautiful to try and slow this momentum.
But they're so close to getting to that third checkpoint, exactly like they need, 4 minutes and 5 seconds. And, you know, they're just doing so good. Young and Beautiful playing really, really aggressive.
And as this aggression continues to move forward, there's a lot still riding on this. Maybe to contest. Chaos misses the hook because the whole hog is active by Lulzish. Nobody going to be able to touch. Barely getting the Tracer on point. And the pile drive gets a decent stun to shut down anyone from maintaining that position. Under 1 meter to go. The time bank is full, practically. Just 18 seconds shy of the starting time as Young and Beautiful feels pretty confident about that push.
Young and Beautiful were fighting the entire time. They were always pushing up and looking for everyone that was left from CBA, getting those picks over and over again. And once again, it never seemed like CBA was ready to recontest because they were getting picked so early on. They just didn't know what to do. They never really regrouped, and it really felt like a full fight. It was just Young and Beautiful rolling over them over and over again. Jonah making an amazing job on the Widowmaker, getting those picks as well. So CBA is struggling so much right now. Once again, we've said that this has been one of the best maps that we've seen from this team, yet it's just not enough against Young and Beautiful. So a few changes need to be made. I did like seeing that Zenyatta, but if you're not able to get value out of the Zen, and you know you're already lacking heals, then maybe a switch needs to be made from them.
Mm-hmm. And between the two Widow plays, I would say it's been about even. It would almost be a little bit more reliant on how the tanks have been able to cause disruption, especially from Young and Beautiful on the Wrecking Ball. They're not going to carry it over into this round, but with this dive composition still, with the Winston and the Diva, they're going to play forward, and they're going to look to cause some real harass, because you can see that Vital's thinking about the Bastion.
And this could be what we're going to be seeing. Also, well, Young and Beautiful playing really, really close to spawn. So a little bit of a risky play from them. But it could work once again. If CBA is able to punish the aggression, they should be having the advantage.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, even if you do have Young and Beautiful getting brought down from this early respawn, it allows them a second solid contest as a full 6. But because of the positional advantage, you've got the Mei over top, using the wall to get up above for that extra damage, along with also just constantly blocking in this doorway to sever the team. Young and Beautiful knows how to play this so well, and acknowledging that they can divide and conquer this team and prevent CBA from getting onto this point, especially since Vital is sticking on this Bastion.
And you know, I would recommend that if you are playing this, in competitive, just don't play that close to spawn. But Young Beautiful, because they are still confident on their plays, they're making this work over and over again, and CBA doesn't even know how to get out of respawn right now.
Yeah, there was a change, though, from Vital, going on to the 76, acknowledging that the Bastion's not going to be worthwhile. Does play a little bit more of a side angle to get the advantage, but with his Coalescence going to come through, it's going to sustain Young and Beautiful. Now the picks start coming through, gets the double with the whole hog, and this is now a chance with CBA to get back into this. But a minute and 20's already worn off the clock. Jonah finds some sight lines to slow it down, and you'll have a regroup by Young and Beautiful for another solid 6 play, and you're going to have a Doomfist come out to say hello as well.
Oh, when 4 now get taken down, it seems like CBA finally had some sort of advantage thanks to Chaos, but is it going to be enough if the rest of your team gets picked over and over again? A huge advantage that we're seeing from Young and Beautiful now, using that primal reach and just looking amazing overall. They were able to recontest because of how close they were holding the spawn.
Dola right now from Young and Beautiful is absolutely nutty with this utility that he's providing on this team to just make sure that everyone is always in a more advantageous position. You can't see CBA come back to this for at the present moment. Wicked gonna force out that Flux, but the sound barrier is there to survive once again. A lot's riding on the shoulders of Art right now, who got the double, and this Transcendence unfortunately has to be forced out by Alpha, who is so far out from this angle that I'm actually surprised that CBA is getting some momentum still on this payload.
They are somehow making it work, and you know, it's working pretty good for them. 2 more picks for them, not looking bad at all. They just finish it, and maybe we can see Young and Beautiful able to recontest once more. So you should definitely watch out for those DPS coming through for Young and Beautiful.
Oh, Art and Vital, we get it. We get it. You're here now. You're doing some real great work as you push through this, and we want to keep seeing that because you're going to need it to carry in against Young and Beautiful. Great hook as well, coming out from Chaos. This Doomfist is going to find themselves in a very difficult position, looking down the barrel of a shrapnel cannon when you've got 3 minutes and 24 seconds. If CBA can keep this disruption up, they will be in a good spot to reach this next checkpoint.
Listen, and I just have to say it again, I know this is one of their best maps for a reason. Now they're looking so much stronger, and the ones struggling are Young and Beautiful. They don't really know how to do, and a few picks getting 4, putting them in such an advantage.
You had a great coverage by that tank line, though, trying to give some space for Vital. Again, it's those critical moments. The Primal Rage still came through, but that's just such well-rounded communication to give both Art and Vital room to work with. And that's what I want to see more of. I need this space so that these DPS can do the work that they did in the tail end of this first run and now need to carry over into this next.
And so many ults that were used, but they're going to have a nano available for CBA. So not everything is lost, and they do have quite enough time. Coalescence is actually being used as well to push them back as much as they can. And once again, Young and Beautiful playing really well, using the ult economy as the best availability.
Yeah, and that's going to be a quick, easy fight here. The Coalescence was more than enough to reforce this out. Art's going to have to play super critically here, but it's really not going to be able to get too much value out of it and force a reset, really.
Now they are going to be forced to regroup, but yet another kill. We do see the Doomfist getting the pick on Chaos, and I think, you know, talking about Chaos, he is such an important key in the composition that they're running. I think the Roadhog has been decent, but, you know, you keep getting picked over and over again. This just cannot happen if you want to get to the second checkpoint.
Yeah, and now you're going to see so much forward positioning by Young and Beautiful. They have the advantage. They're running the clock. The payload is moving back towards that initial position before the doorway. And you've got a sound barrier even committed to continue forcing that aggression on the front side. Sobek still giving a lot of healing out here to maybe look for a reform What? That would have been an amazing sleep dart. Had to comment on that because that was a prayer of a shot. And you've got this Bionade now landing onto the hamster. Can't manage to do something. And honestly, you have even just this unique Lucio battle play and the supports because you really just want to try and get to the point and draw their attention back, which it's actually doing. And that's a nice job here from the Lucio play to force Young and Beautiful from their spawn doors.
Dola is just an amazing Lucio player, and we've seen this over and over again, playing really aggressive when he needs to be and peeling for his team as much as he can. Doing an amazing job having goal that loses B4, but now is able to come back really fast and now takes down Wicked. So looking pretty good, but Alpha, what are you doing?
While in the back, you got the Lucio just killing it. Now I'm gonna flee. Bye! Green means go, friends. As you've got the Lucio now trying to skirt away. And again, this is what I honestly like CB. Okay, I don't know about committing the sound barrier, though, to that Alpha. That's a little aggressive. But, I mean, at this point, if you're drawing tension away, you've got to regroup. But now you find yourself in a 6 versus 5 with 30 seconds to go. Self-destruct going to come out by Wicked. Needs to get a pick here. Doesn't manage to do so as the cleanup from both the Doom and Tracer on Young and Beautiful find the mark. Great strategy from Alpha. But man, if there was a tiny bit more coordination, that could have been so much more valuable.
I mean, the strategy of playing with the Lucio pushing payload, you know, it was good. It makes everyone look at the payload because they know that it could be lost if they're not careful. But then again, like you mentioned, way too aggressive for CBA.
Yeah, and now as these final seconds accrue, you've got the overtime commencing. But you've got Vital going into the ranging fists of a Winston, and there is not enough damage from that Helix rocket to do anything. You've got Wicked, at least on the Zarya, getting the follow-up, but it's going to be far too late. Young and Beautiful, demonstrating once again why they are a just relentless force to compete against. Overtime ends, and that will be a 3-0 map for this second match from Young and Beautiful over CBA.
Absolutely one of the best teams that we've seen in Contenders EU, and now like we're seeing in trials, they look really strong. Sometimes, you know, they were struggling a little bit, but the main thing about them is how easy they're able to adapt to anything that the other team is playing. This is such a key for Young and Beautiful. They've done an amazing job throughout this match. They were able to full hold for the longest time, and it's just amazing to see once again the variety of heroes that they're able to play. So overall, just amazing performance, and kind of we know why they were the favorites coming into this match.
And I mean, it like we said, it was David and Goliath. At this point, CBA, they still had really great strengths. Their ability to respond to a very heavily aggressive team. We saw it a lot more on Hollywood. There was also, you know, some ability to kind of maneuver and change up your strategy going on to Junkertown, where you tried to press that attention towards the payload to give some space for your team to regroup. And so there's a lot of good positive things from the type of play. It's just really now trying to refine those executions moving forward for, you know, yourself to continue to grow as a team in general.
And you know, this is a really good point for CBA. They are able to learn a lot from their mistakes. And also, I do want to give them credit because, like we mentioned, this meta has been really difficult for a lot of teams where they don't know exactly what to play. And this puts them in such a disadvantage. Sometimes you see compositions that are being run by everyone. But this is not the case. A lot of teams are able to run a Roadhog, a Wrecking Ball, a Diva, a Winston, a Zarya. Every single tank I think we've seen throughout this match, and it just makes it harder for a team that has been already struggling to really adapt and know what to play. So I do want to give them credit. They have done everything they can, and you know, it's a good start for them to reevaluate what they need to change, what composition they feel like it's better, and what they think it's going to be played in the next few weeks.
Alrighty, so it looks like we are actually going to get an interview here with Young and Beautiful. It's going to be Happy coming through, another tank. We've got the tanks being on the spotlight today for the interview moment, so we will be bringing them in just a moment. And honestly, as we've been seeing it, there was some really great play from that Diva in general, just coordinated together with both of them once they actually get in here. But I mean, that was what we talked about at the start. The tank lineup for Young and Beautiful is very, very strong, and it's very coordinated. And when you have a very lucrative dive composition like that can just yield so much value and give space to other individuals on the roster, I mean, it's stellar to see. And I think we're getting them in right now. Let's take a look here. Let's see. I think Happy's coming in. Well, we're gonna give it. There we go. Hey, Happy, can you hear us?
Yep. What's up?
Fantastic. How are you doing, my friend? Congratulations on the 3-0 win that you just had over CBA.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So now we were just talking about the tank lineup, kind of how you have synergy with your co-tank and your team. How are you feeling right now going into this meta and refining yourself with this composition? Do you feel really confident as a team right now on where you're at with what you have been playing with?
I think so. Like we haven't really had a real scrim yet, and we're doing really well. So it's looking really good right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and your team has been doing amazing, and over again, a lot of people have talked about the tankling that you guys have, and such an amazing performance that we saw today. So I did want to ask you, we've seen a lot of changes from Blizzard, making a lot of patch notes coming, and a lot of changes very often, which is something that we haven't seen as much before. So I do want to ask you, how are you adapting to the changes that are happening so fast from Blizzard to the patches, and a lot of changes that we see for the tanks? Is this something that you worry a little bit that you're able to adapt in time, or are you just comfortable that your team is able to adapt very quickly compared to other teams?
I don't know. I started playing this team a week ago, so I don't know how good you're at adapting, but it looks like we're pretty good because we changed the comp mid-official and won it. So yeah, it's looking good. And for myself, I think I'm pretty good at all the tanks. So for me,
I was gonna say, it seems that you're working very well with the tank lineup. I mean, if anything, it's more so how are you adjusting to the team? Since you, like you said, you just started a week ago. Do you feel that there's a great morale amongst the players, kind of having you in as the new tank that's coming in as an off tank?
Great morale for having me in. I don't know. I mean, I took a 3-month break from the game, and I'm still not as good as I was, but I'm happy I got into this team, and we've been doing well. So.
And yeah, another thing. So you say that you took a break. What do you think coming into all these matches has been kind of the hardest thing to adapt to, or maybe a hero that you feel like is your weakest? What do you think has been the greatest challenge so far?
Just being good at the game again. Like matches that are no problem for me. Like I'm used to it. Just my overall awareness has been pretty bad, or like not bad. It's been getting better, but like it was hard to adapt at the start because like I just didn't know what's going on a lot of the time. But it's been going well now, so just needed some time.
Well, congratulations to you coming back after a 3-month break, demonstrating that you still got it. You still got it, even though you're acknowledging you still have some growth to do. But that's, I think, with all of us and anything we do, my friend. So it's been a pleasure to have you speak here for just those few moments with us. We appreciate your time. Congratulations again to Young and Beautiful, continuing to move forward and dominate as a team. And we look forward to seeing how you guys continue to grow in the future. So definitely have a wonderful rest of your evening, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Definitely. Take care. And for those of you that are still here tuning in, that will conclude us for today. We saw all 4 teams, both Obey, Alliance, along with Young and Beautiful, claiming victories 3-0s. It has been absolutely exciting. Dryad as well. I haven't had the chance to cast with you before, but it has been a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, that was really exciting to see all these teams and their strengths, and also being able to cast with you, very exciting. So, well, this is going to be it for us.
So, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care. Happy gaming, and have a lovely rest of your evening.